Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Marvel Legendary. This is for the Marvel Studio What If Core Expansion Set. I call it that because you can play it as you buy it. It's like a full core set, has all the starter cards you need, all the bystanders, wounds, all the basic cards you need to play a game. Or you can play it just as an additional expansion to your previous games. And then maybe switch out some of the different cards if you like different artwork or mix and match them. This is technically part 3 in my videos. You can check out part 1 and 2 if you like. Part 1, I just go over the rules of the book for people not familiar with how Legendary is. We kind of go talk about the gameplay, what all the cards mean, all that jazz. And then video 2 is I do actually a playthrough of a early round play and then a late round play to get an idea of action, how the game plays, and you can kind of see like how it goes from early on to how crazy it can get later in the game. This is the video where we're actually going to go through the unboxing of all the cards, like my traditional videos are. So if you don't care about the other two, you're familiar with Legendary, skip them, stay watching this video. If this is your first time hopping, you're like, what is this game? Go back and check out parts 1 and 2. So here's the big giant box. It is a little bit, it's longer. It's as long as a regular box would have been, a core box or a big box. But it is shorter. If we open it up here, and I did kind of go through some of these for the other videos, we're just going to do a quick reiteration. It has a spot in here for the playmat. This is the playmat we're playing on. We have below us, which is really cool, so it comes with one, which are really nice to have. Has some foam blocks in here, and here's a gap where all your cards were. So as you buy more expansions, if this is your first set, you can definitely add some more things in there. Now, the playmat part does not come out. This is part of the box. So you can't take that out, have your own container, and then just expand your box that way. Alright, I'm going to set that off to the side. You can see my playmat here. I really like this one versus some of the other official ones because there's not as much going on. It's darker blues and pinks. Maybe some of the words could have been highlighted a little bit better to be quicker to see off the back. But it doesn't have, like, I know there's like a Thanos versus Avengers, there's a Phoenix versus X-Men. It's really awesome artwork, but there's so much going on. I can sell it to kind of distract from cards being on the table. Once you have everything filled, it's not so bad because most of that art's covered, but you only have a couple of cards that gives you some conflicting stuff. There's Uatu on the side there. There's actually some extra spaces over here for putting like your extra cards. So if you have, you want to put your KO piles over here instead of up on top, or if you have your Steam or Mastermind that say put this extra card here, they'll have some extra spaces there. So that's kind of cool as well. And we do have our full rule book. So before we actually jump into the cards, we are just going to look at the new keywords, all the keywords actually. We have some new ones, we have some existing ones, and we just want to hop in and read what those are. So when we're going through the cards, we know what we're talking about. If I can find the page with the keywords on there. All right. So to start off, before I even get into that, obviously this is based off the What If TV series from Marvel and Disney Plus. So if you have not seen it, spoilers. There will be plenty of spoilers because it's going to reveal villains from the different episodes, characters from all the different episodes. If you have not checked it out and you do not want spoilers, turn off this video, go watch it first. Because I'm not going to like directly say what, I'm not going to, I won't promise, I guess. I will not try not to spoil specifics of episodes, but just the fact of seeing who this villain is or this mastermind is going to spoil episodes. And there's nothing I can get around that. But I won't say, oh yeah, I love it when this character kills that character. I'll try not to do that. But if I do, hey, you've been warned. Alright, so let's look at our new keywords. So first we're going to start off with what if. There are various characters that are going to have the what if keyword. It just pops up in bold text. It's going to say what if, colon, and then what happens. So like, for example, this character might get +3 recruit points. It says this means choose a hero class or a hero name. Your class are 5 different colors, the blue range, green strength, black tech, red covert, yellow instinct. Or a hero name. Then reveal the top card of your deck. Either put it back on top of your deck or discard it. If the revealed card has the hero class or hero name you choose, then do the what if effect. So at bare minimum, what a what if effect is going to let you do is look to the top card of your deck and decide to keep it or not. So even that in itself is a fairly strong ability, because you can kind of stack your deck a bit. Oh, I got a shield agent. Go ahead and discard it if you don't want it. I know I have, a really cool card, Hulk or a Captain America card coming up. Nice, I can keep that for my next turn. Or if I have a draw card, now I know it's coming up. But yeah, if you can guess that, and then you get to reveal the card, head to hero, then you get to use that special effect. So there's a lot of cards in this set that revolve either drawing cards or putting cards back on top of your deck, so that way you can stack this what if effect. So what if is not allowed to trigger on 0 cost gray starting cards like Shield Agent or Shield Trooper, so don't choose those heroes' names. Yes, basic cards don't count. Even if a what if ability miss is still valuable, get to the top card of your discard pile. Just sets you up, so I'm not going to go through it. Now here, this is an important part. If you choose a hero name like Black Widow, that will trigger any card whose name hero is literally Black Widow, such as any hero that contains Black Widow as Apocalyptic Black Widow from this set. However, you have to choose an actual name. You can't just choose a word Captain to trigger Captain America and Captain Carter cards. So Captain America, Captain Carter, Captain Marvel, Captain Britain, all different characters. Captain's not a name. This also would then... This is where you have to decide if you want to house rule it, because normally I would say if you said Wolverine, it would include both Wolverine from the base game, Wolverine from the of the X-Force team, as well as the Wolverine from the X-Men set, which is Wolverine and Colossus on some of the cards. But you'd have to decide if you still want to include alternate versions of that, like Old Man Logan. Technically, he is a Wolverine, but his name doesn't specifically say that. They don't actually address that in this set. There's just very few characters are going to fit in exactly like that. Another one would be the Hulk. There's a couple different Hulk cards out there, but one of the characters is actually Joe Fixit. And technically Joe Fixit is a Hulk, but he doesn't say Hulk. And I would, though, say Hulk and She-Hulk are 2 different characters. They're not, even though Hulk is in the name, it's not the same named character. So that's just one way to look at it. I'd say they have to have the full name without any other like dashes or anything like that in there. I'd say there's ways to increase it, and I'm not going to go through all of that. Our next ability is Soulbind. So this is to represent people like Doctor Strange, binding demons and using their power, or Uwaka and Gamora, sacrificing people to the Infinity Stones. So Soulbind works like this. It has a superpower symbol, one of the 5 colors, and then Soulbind. And it says you get attack equal to that villain's printed victory cost. So Soulbind's have different effects. But it's going to say, it says if you play a ranged hero earlier this turn, you may choose a face-up villain in your victory pile, turn it face down, put it on the bottom of your victory pile. If you do the Soulbind effect. So basically, it works kind of like a superpowers. You have to first play a card of that color, and then you can trigger Soulbind, and you turn a villain in your victory pile face down, which means it no longer can be used. It says, at the end of the game, when you are counting victory points, turn all those face-down cards face-up again, and you can count their victory points, but until the end of the game, face-down cards do not count as being in your victory pile at all. So this can shut off abilities like Rise of the Living Dead, which looks for cards in your victory pile. But then it can also go against cards like Cross-Dimensional Rampage, which also look for cards in your victory pile, but they're for your benefit. So it's kind of a weird double-edged sword. Plus the fact is, if you soulbind one character, like I've defeated 2 henchmen, I soulbind the first one. Now I can only soulbind one more. After I soulbind 2 of them, I can't use any other soulbind effects until I put more villains in my victory pile. Some cards ask you to soulbind more specific things, like soulbind a henchman or soulbind 6 villains. So if it says that, you have to specifically have that card. If you don't have any henchmen left, you can't do that ability. If you don't have 6 villains, you can't do the 6th one. Soulbind is usually optional. You generally don't have to use it if you don't want to. Whether on a hero you played or a villain you just fought. However, some cards say you must soulbind, which means you must do it. If you can't meet the requirements to do it and it's telling you have to, it doesn't happen. Like, it's not going to, like, force the negative thing if you can't perform it. It's like telling you to, draw a card from the wound deck and there's no wounds left, right? Or pick up reveal a strength hero and you have no strength hero. You don't get penalized for not having that thing to do. Alright, then we have Liberate. Cards like Apocalyptic Black Widow, Hail, rallied where Ultron won and destroyed the Avengers. So instead, she devotes herself to specific strikes on targets. So what this is going to say is various cards going to have Liberate and then a number. Which means you get +3 attack, or whatever the number is. Usable only against villains holding bystanders or the Mastermind. You use the bonus against Masterminds whether it's holding a bystander or not. You can't use that attack that's only usable against Masterminds. You can use the attack that's only usable against Masterminds, like Liberate, on additional attack that Mastermind abilities ask you to spend. So if you're attacking the Mastermind, Liberate, you get an extra, whatever that number is for that. But for villains, they have to have a bystander. So this is going to be one of the abilities that's very interesting, because if you're playing against some villain groups that steal a bunch of bystanders, this ability is going to be very useful. If you're against groups that don't steal anything, you're just relying on the deck to find them. Alright, those are the 3 new ones. We do have some returning keywords from previous sets. We have Empowered. So Empowered says heroes get empowered by and then a superpower symbol. This means you get +1 attack for each of that type in the HQ. Villains and Masterminds can also have that, which means they get +1 attack for each of that card in the HQ. It just says you watch it sometimes empowers by other specific names or teams, which works the same way. So what's neat about that ability is it can increase or decrease based on what's in the HQ. So if you have 2 covert cards and your character is empowered by it, they have 2 extra attack. You could go and buy the strength card that turn, draw the new one, it's another covert. Now you have +3 attack. Vice versa, you can use that against villains. You have 2 covert and they're be empowered by it. You could buy one of those covert cards, which then drops that villain's attack down unless you drew another covert card. This is also a team-driven ability as well, because if I'm playing with 4 people, like, it goes, if someone's using the Liberate ability, you have to kind of watch maybe what you're buying, not just for, oh, I really want this card, I want that, because someone might have 3 covert cards. They might be hoping for that extra 3 attack during their turn, and then you buy 2 of them, and that kills their turns. You might have to talk to your team about that. Some characters have multiple colors. Usually Black Panther is one of them characters, and it counts for every instance of that. So nice. Another returning one is Cross-Dimensional Rampage. So Cross-Dimensional Rampage on a card says each player reveals one of their party heroes. Well, this is for Cross-Dimensional Rampage party. So you reveal a hero or a character in your villain in your victory pile that follows that name. So for Cross-Dimensional Party Rampage, it has to be a party hero or a party villain. There are other ones for Cross-Dimensional Rampage zombies or demons. So it's any card that has zombie or demon in its name. So this is going to look for hero names, villain group names or tactics. So including henchmen, obviously henchmen would include that for the name. Or any mastermind with that word in its name. Um, and it's also going to look for any card, like for a demon, any card that has demon as any part of its name, including demonic descendant, demon form, and cleaving demon blade. So as long as the word demon. So this is unlike the what if where captain doesn't work. This works at anything that says demon. So like for the demon one, this would also fall back like an older set like Belasco Demon Lord, or he has Demons of Limbo as a villain group. I'm trying to think of others. We have a lot of zombies from some of the other sets as well. Yeah, so anything that includes that, if you have, again, like Hulk is a good example. We mentioned She-Hulk earlier. This, if you had a cross-dimensional Rampage Hulk, you can include She-Hulk as well, because of the word Hulk is in her name. Some of that, you can start to argue as a group, what you do and don't include. Everyone has different philosophies on that. So it says when a cross-dimensional Rampage would happen, you choose to gain the wound, even if you have that type of card in play or otherwise could be revealed. You might want to gain the wound if you have a thing. So that's what's neat about cross-dimensional Rampage. You do not have to show a card to send it to defeat it. Now, on a side note for this, I have read some players think that this ability can be a little bit too easy. For example, this party one with Party Thor. Once you defeat one Party Thor villain, it's always in your victory pile. So every time that would come up, you just from then on, you just have to reveal that card and you'd always get it. The one way in this particular set to get that could end up changing that is soul binding it. So that can maybe cover it up, or possibly, depending on what the character is, Rise of the Living Dead. But there's generally not a lot of ways to get cards out of your victory pile. So I did suggest a house rule variant for this is every time you reveal a card from your victory pile as a villain, for that you turn it face down like Soulbound. That way you can't keep using the same villain over and over and over in your victory pile. It'll make you debate maybe earlier on or later on if you're willing to risk that wound. Because if I bought a Party Thor card, yes, it's always in my deck. I could draw it every single turn. But I could also go 4 turns without ever drawing that one card, and I could get hit with that ability 4 turns in a row. So, like, that's negated on how many of those cards you keep buying. Alright, anywho, let's skip on to the next ability. We have Rise of the Living Dead, which is always fun. So this is zombies, of course. Rise of the Living Dead means each player checks the top card of the victory pile. If that card is a villain with the Rise of the Living Dead ability, that villain re-enters the city. So it's only the top card. Follows the same way as any other villain. First check if it push out to escape, resolve escape effects, then do any ambush abilities. However, note the villain returning to the city, because Rise of the Living Dead does not itself bring back additional villains with its own Rise ability. A single player does not do a chain reaction to many villains. However, since each player is affected by it, several villains might still return when it occurs, a maximum of 1 per player. So if, like, a Mastermind, for example, has a thing that triggers Rise of the Living Dead, each player would check, but they only return 1. Even if that next guy would then come into play and have another Rise ability, you just ignore it. You're not going to keep compounding them over and over. So this is a change from it appeared in Secret Wars, which chain effects were allowed. And yeah, so that just made that a little bit too hard, because you could easily lose in like 1 turn if that hit wrong. So how do you stop zombies from returning? By burying them deep after fighting a zombie with Rise of the Living Dead. The ways, so it doesn't look for ways to put a card that doesn't have it on top. So defeat another villain, put it on top of the deck, so that it's no longer Rise characters on the top. Or if you use something like Soulbound to flip it over. And again, if you house rule deck for that or for the Rampage, that would be another way to do it. Mastermind tactics are never returned by Rise of the Living Dead. So some might say they search for something, but it doesn't actually ever come back. So it says, here's another good note for this. It says, if you put a villain with a bystander in your victory pile, you choose the order that all these cards go in your victory pile. So if you fight a Rise of the Living Dead villain that had bystanders, it's smart to put the bystanders on top. So put the villain down, then put the bystanders on top of it. Another cool recurring one that I love is villains ascend to become masterminds. So basically, the quick gist of this is some of the villains will escape, or something will happen. They now become a mastermind. So they're, in addition to the current mastermind, you have to beat them at least once to get rid of them. But if you hit a master strike, it's going to trigger for both of them. It'll trigger from, essentially, say, like right to left. It'll trigger your original mastermind first, then it'll trigger the next one. But you could easily end up with 3, 4, 5 masterminds if you're not careful. So very interesting. Then we have some specific ones for Killmonger and Ultron Infinity, which we'll look at when we get there. Yeah, so that's the basic keywords. We do have our 2 different hero teams. We have Guardians of the Multiverse and Shield Agents. The Shield Agents are only your basic cards. Alright, so we are going to hop in and start looking at it. The video is getting a little bit longer, but if we don't go through the rules now, then I have to try and go through each individual card. So we're going to start with, I'm not going to do the exact card number that are listed in the book, but we get, actually I probably just looked it up, they're right here at the back side. So we have our starting cards, our Shield Troopers, which have a Maria Hill on them. Let me readjust my camera. There we go. So we have, how many of these guys? We have 20 of the Shield Troopers. These are your basic attack cards. We have, I can fit on here, but we have the Shield Agents, which have Coulson, and there are 40 of these. Again, your starting cards, enough for 5 players. Then we have our permanent deck of Shield Officers, which have Nick Fury. So what's fun about these guys is you can swap these in for different artwork for the different players if you would like to. So that way, if someone doesn't like just the generic Shield Agents, you could add these guys, or you could mix these guys in with the original series, which has Maria Hill, just to give some different artwork. Or just swap them up sometimes, so you have some just different cards, mix and match them. It's always fun to do stuff like that. A couple other static decks we have our Steam Twist, which have a Zombie Scarlet Witch on them, which there are a total of 11 of those. Again, like the other card, you'd swap these in instead of the original ones just to have some different artwork appear occasionally. Our Master Strike, which we have 5 of, has Ultron in there, Infinity. And we always have 5 of those. We have our brand new stack of Bystanders, which there are 25 of these, which just show a bunch of different Asgardian or random other alien characters, part of the Thor episode. So that's kind of cool. We did get some special Bystanders, so we're going to look at those guys quick. So we have 5 special Bystanders, which of course get us special abilities when you rescue them. So we're going to start with Howard the Duck. When you rescue this Bystander, reveal the top 4 cards of the Bystander deck. You may rescue special Bystanders from among them, then put the rest back in the bottom of the deck. So with this set, not as powerful because there's only 5 of them. But if you start adding this to your other expansions, you're going to easily get a lot more. We also get a Howard Stark. When you rescue this Bystander, the top 4 cards of your deck, draw each tech and each range hero you reveal, put the rest back in any order. So that is definitely fun to get some extra cards there. I'm glad that each one wasn't just in a different version of that. We have Happy Hogan. When you rescue this Bystander, reveal the top card of the villain deck. If it's a Master Striker Steam Twist, you may shuffle that deck. That's fun. Just to be able to negate that right off the bat. Scott Lang's Head. When you rescue this Bystander, whichever player is a head, has the most VP or type for the most, may KO one of their cards. And then finally we have Pepper Potts. When you rescue this bystander, you get +1 recruit if the bank is empty, and +1 if the rooftop is empty. This is one of them interesting ones because you might let her stay kidnapped for far longer than you normally would let someone else stay kidnapped, because you're like, yeah, the bank's empty, but the rooftop has someone, so I'm gonna wait until I can take out that so I can get 2 recruit points. Done this a lot of times with sometimes some of the henchmen. I wait and let them get farther down to the board because I'm like, I can take them out whenever, but I'm waiting until that +1 recruit on them is actually useful for me. So that's pretty fun. Alright, then our last big deck of cards before we jump into characters and heroes is going to be the Wounds deck, which works like the traditional Wounds, just has a different picture, and there are 30 of these. It would have been kind of cool if they did these similar to Bindings from the villain set and gave them a different style of effect. So then you conceivably could have had Wounds, Bindings, and like a different style. Because then you could have mixed and matched. Either added all 3 in there and had like a, oh, I don't know what kind I'm going to get. Then if you had Grievous Wounds as well. From the Civil War set, I think. Then you had a lot different, more options. I think that would have been kind of a neat thing. I get why they didn't, because they're trying to make this a base game. But that would have been a neat way to like just introduce a full new deck that did something just a little different. Like maybe instead of Wounds, call it like mental trauma. And it does something that like hinders you in a different way. Like even if it was just as different as saying like, instead of going to your discard pile, this goes on top of your deck, right? So instead of like you gain this, instead of going to your discard pile, it's immediately on your deck and you have to deal with it instantly. That would have just been a slight change. Otherwise, the rest of the healing effect, all that could have stayed the same. That would have been kind of just a little bit different switch up. Alright, so we're going to jump in and look at our heroes. These guys do have a little bit of different breakdown than the most sets because they follow some of the newer sets do this as well. But instead of having your 4 different cards that are 5 commons, the 3 rares, and the 1 ultimate card, your super rare, this has 3 copies of 3 different common cards, 2 copies of the uncommons, and the rares. Instead of having 4 cards, you have 6 different cards instead. So it gets you 2 more card options, just at less quantity of each. Which is, I almost to some extent like that as a better way. I almost like if they updated the old characters to give them like extra set of basic cards. You could take them out and like, hey, here we're gonna refresh, give everyone a little bit of an update, and have everyone have 6 cards instead of 4. I think that'd be kind of cool. But we're going to start off with Captain Carter. So all the characters are part of the Guardians of the Multiverse, so I'm not going to keep bringing that up. But let's see what she does. So as a strength card, the Super Soldier Serum, so there's, again, 3 copies of this, has what if you get +2 recruit and +2 attack. So if you can guess the top card of your deck, she can gain 2 attack and 2 plus. For as a 2 cost, it's definitely not bad. It's actually really good. But it's really hit or miss because you buy this on your first couple of turns. You can't include shield agents. So right off the bat, it's completely useless. You almost have to, it's a 2 cost card that you almost have to wait until after you've built up your deck more. And then the more diverse you make your deck, the harder it might get. If you only play strength cards and range cards, great. It's going to be easy to guess which one you have. Or if you only are buying Captain Carter and Party Thor cards, might be easy. But if you're buying all these different colors and all these different characters, it's going to be harder to hit these what-if abilities. But that's why they have other effects that let you put stuff on top of your deck or reveal the top card of your deck to help play with them. So before the serum, Peggy Carter was a hero. Afterwards, she was unstoppable. We have 3 copies of Wartime Logistics, an instinct card. 3 cards for 1 recruit. You get +1 recruit for each different printed recruit number amongst all your heroes. So I love that this is a very Captain America thing. Gaining a bunch of attack or recruit based on different cards you play. The normal Captain Americas are based off of color. Hers are based in theirs off of the different numbers. So if you play a variety of colors, Captain America, you gain bonuses. Her, you play a variety of numbers. So yeah, if you just play a +1, she gets a 1. You play a 2, she gets 2. You play a 3, she gets 3. So it kind of helps you make your deck a little bit, instead of trying to ping people with these ones, and ones, it gives you some options. Alright, 3 copies of Coordinated Assault, a tech card. 4 costs for 1, you get +1 attack for each of the different printed attack amongst all your heroes. So again, both of these, a little bit expensive for initially just 1, but she's going to get better as the game goes on. So this is kind of an interesting character, because early in the game, she's not going to be very useful, especially for some of the cost of her cards. But as the game goes on, she could get very powerful. Then we have 2 copies of the Shield of Bricking. Another tech card. 3 attack for 5 cost. Once per turn, when a player gains a wound, you may reveal this card to return that wound to the wound stack. If you do, the players who turn it is get to liberate 3. So this actually provides a couple effects. So you get the 3 attack, which is definitely nice. Bare minimum, you can also use it to negate a wound, which could be very helpful. And then possibly liberate 3. Again, that's if they're going to fight the Mastermind, that can be very helpful. Otherwise, for villains, it's because you have to hope they have captured a bystander. But then again, that only triggers if they're going to take a wound. So getting Liberate, hoping that they can either fight the Mastermind or there's a villain of the bystander on the same turn they also gain a wound. Kind of tricky. But with Cross-Dimensional Rampage, I think that's the idea. This is supposed to be going against that. You reveal a character, you can choose to take a wound, and then, I can take a wound, she can block it, and then you could get that Liberate. Alright, and then we have 2 copies of Give Them All We've Got, a Strength card. To play this card, you must put another card from your hand on top of your deck. Freedom never fails. So this is the cards that work with the what if. So like if you played this, put one of your other cards back on top of your deck, then you would immediately be able to play this one and know what card you have on top of your deck to get your +2 attack and +2 recruit. So that's kind of how those 2 can work together. Then her ultimate card, Icon of Hope, another strength card, 8 costs, which they usually are. Highlight that, 2 recruit and 4 attack. So just 8 for 2 and 4, not bad, not terrible. It's going to trigger some of them other abilities, like hers right here. It says you get +1 recruit for each different printed recruit number amongst all your heroes, and you get +1 additional for each different printed attack. So this right here, playing her automatically gets her, she has 2 and 4, but then she gets +1 for each other different one. So as long as she has a 1 of a plus or a 1 on each one, she could get 1 additional there, but then she can get some 3s and some 4s and some 5s and some 6s. So drawing cards, compiling, getting a big hand, this guy could get very powerful very quickly. You have 6 cards in your hand to begin with, so if you play 5 other cards, you could potentially have up to 5 other attack, which is now a 9 for 8. Or a 6 for, or sorry, an 8 different recruit, bunch of attacks. This could be very cool. Again, it could be very hit or miss. Like, if you don't, for some odd reason though, I think it should be very rare. You're never going to play this with something else. So I think it should be very odd. You'll never get at least a +2 from each of these. So it's really like a 4 and 6, which aren't bad either. Alright, that was our first one. Let's hop into our second character. We have Star-Lord T'Challa. So this is kind of fun because even though he's Star-Lord T'Challa, not Black Panther, he follows the same mechanic that every Black Panther card has had where all his cards are multi-class. This really helps trigger superpowers. Um, so it makes him a very interesting hero to play. So this is a green and red. 2 cost, does 0. Choose one, you get empowered by strength or get empowered by covert. If you have both, you get to draw a card. So this particular one rewards you for having them cards in there and playing that particular type. So again, kind of like the Captain Carter's 2 cost, it could be very hit or miss because there could be no green or red in there. So this could do nothing. There might be 1 or 2. But you only get to choose one of those 2 abilities. So there's only 1 of each. You only get a +1. So 1 attack for 2 is not that great. But you could definitely combo these into some neat effects later. Which is interesting because the way these kind of show, these cards are so far kind of building, like, although they're superheroes, this is some of these characters that sort of the beginning of their career that haven't got a lot of superheroing yet. Just showing their lower cards aren't as powerful maybe as some of the more established heroes. Interstellar Adventures, Covert and Tech, 3 costs for 2, which is again normal. What if you get 3 Recruit on Earth, a noble king, in the stars, a charming scoundrel. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, just 2 for 3, pretty normal. But then you could potentially have up to 5. So let's hop into his next one. So now he has Plan the Heist, Instinct and Covert. 2 for 4, which are the top 2 cards of your deck. Discard any number of them and put the rest back in any order. So just to work with them, those what if abilities very well. Lets you stack your deck. And the fact that you can discard and put them back in any order, it's only 2 cards, but if you drew 2 Shield Agents or Shield Trooper starter cards, you can opt just to discard them. Now you don't know what you have. But if you drew 1 Shield Agent and 1 other Star-Lord T'Challa card, you could discard the Shield Agent, put the T'Challa card on top. Now you know what card's ready there, either for your next turn, just in general, and you got rid of a weaker starter card, or teaming up with a what if ability. Alright, then we have 2 copies of Unexpected Exit, Strength and Instinct, 3 attack for 5 costs. What if you may KO 1 card from your hand or discard pile? Kidnapped by Yondu's Ravagers, 1 Path of Adventure replaces another. Again, I love the fact it's May, so you don't have to. But yeah, when you trigger this, you just use that previous card. You know what card is going to be in your discard pile if you just put one there. So you can opt to get rid of that if you want. Or, when you do the what if, you look at the top card of the deck, decide, you guess it, and if you trigger the ability, that card's going to be in your discard pile then. So that's kind of cool. Very good combos there. We have 2 copies of Cross the Multiverse, a strength and ranged, 4 attack for 6. What if you get empowered by the hero classes of the cards you revealed this way? Interesting. So this is one of the hit or miss cards, because it can be very good if what's in the HQ winds up with whatever you put on top of your deck, which maybe you might have stacked it by placing a card there or searching and rearranging it, but sometimes you just might not have an option. There's, 3 coverts and attacking a range card, and the only card you have on your deck is an instinct card. So that doesn't do you any good. But if nothing else, you can at least look at the top card of your card and decide to chuck it or not. And then the last one we have is Ultimate Colliding Dreams, a tech and ranged. 7 for 4, which is a little bit on the low side, but it says, choose any number of heroes in HQ, put them on the bottom of the hero deck. You get empowered by multicolored cards. So pretty crazy. Again, empowered's a risky ability to play with, but it can be very powerful. And this lets you basically reshuffle your entire HQ and try again. Now, I don't think there's a lot of multicolored cards on this set outside of him. There's one other character I know that has some. But if you made, you took this card and you made your own thing, you had like an all Black Panther team, this card would be ridiculous, right? Because if you had all 5 multicolors, also now he has 9 attack, right? Again, there's other characters that are a lot higher, but 9 is pretty darn powerful. But that's as high as it's ever going to get, because you can only add up to 5 for your 5 zones. Alright, that is our second character. Let's hop into our third one. Another kind of familiar face. We have Apocalyptic Black Widow. So 3 copies of this. Humanity's Final Hope, a tech card. 3 for 2 to recruit. If you have at least 4 bystanders in your victory pile, you get +2 recruit. So I always like characters like this where you gain bonuses for having bystanders, but it's also a little tricky because if you're playing against villains that don't care about bystanders, it's sometimes hard to get them. But if you set your deck up so you're playing against certain villains that have abilities to do that, or other heroes that have like Angel or Jean Grey that have some effects that let you rescue bystanders more often, then some cards just can become very powerful. With so few humans left alive in this dimension, she was determined to save as many as she could. We have 3 copies of Plant Hidden Asset. Covert, 4 cost for 1 recruit. Draw a card. You may have a villain capture a bystander. So this is going to be a really good card. Drawing's always nice. Plus, you can have a villain capture a bystander, so this will work with using your other card, plus that Liberate mechanic. Because you can force villains to have it, and then now if you have Liberate, you can gain extra attack against them. Showing allies, she needs them in the most crucial position, so is bait. We have 3 copies of Precision Strike, showing up Hawkeye's bow. Attack 5 for 3 attack. For tech, you get an extra 2, so it becomes 5 for 5, which is pretty nice. After Hawkeye died, she used a bow for a final desperate mission against Ultron. We have 2 copies of Relentless. I like her shield, because you initially think, oh, she took Captain America's shield. No, I believe that is Red Guardian's shield, because it's just red and white. Unless Captain America have a different shield in this one. That's actually kind of interesting. Alright, so this one's interesting. This is an uncommon, but it's 2. You don't often see 2 in the uncommon slot. But it says draw a card if you played a Covert, Liberate 3. So yeah, 3 for 2 attack and getting to draw a card is pretty powerful. When Hulk and Thor died out of Ultron's hands, what kind of human could survive? 2 copies of The Last Avenger tech card, who has What If Liberate 4, and then it's cost 6 for 3. In a dimension where Ultron won, and most of humanity, 1 hero still stood against them. Yeah, getting to look at the top card of your deck, if you can guess it, that Liberate 4 could be very powerful. So that could be 7 against a mastermind, or 7 against a hero or a villain that captured someone. And since yes, or 1 card that can force people to capture them, yeah, 7 will take out majority of the villains. So could be very interesting. And then her ultimate card, Time to Save the Multiverse again. 8 cost for 4, so a little bit on the lower side there, but Liberate equal to the number of bystanders in your victory pile. So again, if she can find a way to rescue a ton of bystanders, this could become infinitely as big of an attack as you want. I'd say, like, in a 4-player game, they only put 8 bystanders in a deck. So even if you let her be the only one that rescues them, and you somehow got them out earlier in the game, and like then you started playing this by the time you got this card, she's doing 12 attack with that. Not to mention she has other ways to pull bystanders out and start rescuing them. And then like even like the Howard the Duck one, if you rescued him, he had to think of look at the deck and draw up to potentially getting more. So yeah, there's definitely ways to make this very powerful. Um, but even if you don't get any for it, it's not even the worst. But then Liberate, I'm looking at versus the Mastermind, which is when you're going to want to use it. Um, but yeah, if you get a little bit, get a couple of characters in your victory pile, boom, you can also take out guys that capture bystanders left and right. If you can just find ways to give them bad guys. All right, then we have next up we have Doctor Strange Supreme. This is when he kind of goes dark. Sees infernal power. So covert, two recruit for 3 cost. These demons do not bargain. Their power is not granted. It must be taken. So if you're playing instant, you can soulbind, which means flip a villain from your victory pile face down. You get recruit equal to that villain's printed VP. So your henchmen are all 1 cost. You get most regular villains are usually, I think, about 3, 2 to 3. So you're not getting a ton out of this. But it is a way to get that recruit when you need it. You don't have to spend that if you don't want to. We have 3 copies of Summon the Demon Minions. Soulbound with blue, you get plus attack equal to the printed VP cost. So you get the blue one, 2 attack for 4 cost. Why do your own fighting when you can have demon dragons do it for you? We have 3 copies of Wards of the Vashanti. Range card, 3 attack, 5 cost. What if you get plus 2 attack and you may KO a wound in your hand or from any player's discard pile? So this is a very powerful card to really help out your team. You just have to trigger that what if. So you have to find them cards to help you get cards on your deck. We have 2 copies of To Save Christine Instinct card, draw a card. So a lot more card drawing in this set. So 2 costs for drawing a card is not bad. But if you can soulbind a bystander or a villain, you get plus 2 attack. If it's a special bystander, you may do its rescue effect. So that's kind of neat because you could potentially sacrifice one of the bystanders to gain that effect a second time, which is really fun, especially again combining this with other sets where you get a lot more variety of characters. Although then again, you'll maybe want to combine this with the Black Widow card because once you soulbind it, that bystander no longer counts. We have 2 copies of Break the Absolute Point in Time. Another instant. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, draw 1, KO 1, and put 1 back. You need to save Christine Palmer's life. Go Doctor Strange to do forbidden and unthinkable. Yeah, this isn't bad because you get draw cards. You get 1 card you can use. You get KO 1, and you get put 1 back. The only downside is you have to KO 1. So if you stack your deck or use the what if abilities before, you can see what you have. Like, oh, I have looked at the top card of my deck. I know it's a shield agent. I want to get rid of it. You could go ahead and play this and know you get a KO 1. But it also lets you stack your deck again with the putting 1 back. So it's a very interesting effect. You gotta be careful because if you're just playing it willy-nilly, you might have to get rid of one of your good cards. Then his ultimate 8 cost is Siding Communion. Another instinct. So 3 for 8, which is pretty bad actually. Was Strange stealing the demon's soul or were they stealing his? So soulbind with instinct. Draw cards equal to that villain's printed VP. So yeah, this is one of the ones I would say drawing cards is always powerful because versus getting 1 attack, if I draw a card, I could end up getting a card that has 1 attack, or I could get a card that has 5 attack and an ability. So drawing cards is usually better than just gaining attack or recruit. But that being said, equal to its VP, it's like, again, henchmen have 1, most villains have 2 or 3. 2 or 3 isn't bad, but if you throw in a villain card or a mastermind, which have like sometimes like 6, 7, 8, also you're drawing 6 cards because you defeated one of the masterminds. That could really change your entire turn. Now, that being said, if you haven't gotten rid of your starter cards, you might end up drawing a hand of starter cards, which is bad. But I guess on the other hand, if I just drew 6 cards and they're all 5 of them were starter cards, it means that my next hand is probably going to be pretty darn good anyhow. So even if nothing else, it's just getting those out of your way. Alright, so that's half of our heroes. We have 4 to go. Alright, up next we have a fun character. It is Killmonger Spec Ops. I say it's fun because I like the fact when they started to include villain-esque characters in as playable. I know they made the villain base game and they did one expansion. But then they kind of abandoned it. But then they started adding villains in as playable. But usually if they're at the point in the comics they're maybe doing something heroic. I know like a big one is the Cabal. The Cabal from Secret Wars, which were technically kind of villains, but they're also trying to do things correct in their own way. It's a neat way to add villains as more playable characters. The same way you can get Carnage in the Venom set, because during that story, some of them storylines, he was being sort of helpful. Not during the Venom one? Yeah, with the poisons. So it's kind of neat, because Killmonger's traditionally a villain character, but because in this story, he was acting as, at least for a time, as a hero. We get to play as him, so that's kind of fun. Now you can have him team up with the other Black Panther characters. Hunt New Prey. So this is, again, he just a dual because he's acting as a Black Panther in this set. He just a dual color, which I also think is a fun idea. So we have Strength and Tech. You get +1 recruit for each different villain group in your party. Yes, this is kind of neat. This is a combination of Black Panther and a combination of Captain Carter. So it's like the Black Panther dual colored, the Captain like being in charge type of idea. This is kind of neat. There's a 2-for-1. Learning new patterns, planning the attack, pouncing for the kill. And then when we go back to more of his regular version, we get 3 copies of No Matter the Price, just a tech card. 4 for 2. But you get a strength and attack, you get +3 attack. Set your goal. Do anything to get it. Yeah, so kind of mixing his cards. You get some double superpowers, which is a little bit harder to get, but they get rewarded for doing it. And I think, again, it kind of leans into that. When he first started out, okay, it was kind of just a soldier. Then when he sort of became like the hero, ooh, now he gets a little bit more powerful attacks, but he's got to work for it. We have 3 copies of Violence Leaves Scars. Strength card, 3 attack, 5 cost. What kills them makes you stronger. Superpower of the Strength, you get +1 for each different villain group in your victory pile. So normally you include probably, I think, what is it, like 4 or 5. In a 4-player game, you include 4 different villain groups, so he can have up to +4 with this. So it's, 4 by 7 for 5. That's definitely not a bad ability. We have 2 copies of Hostage Rescue, another strength. What If, Liberate 3. 2 for 3, which is very common. I think the Liberate they made a little bit cheaper in cost because they're sometimes harder to hit. Saving Tony Stark from the 10 Rings. Jakeda's whole life in a new Jakeda's whole life in a new direction. 2 copies of Plot a Betrayal. Protect each villain worth 3 VP or more captures a bystander. This is kind of a way to set up getting some of them. Like, then you can turn around and liberate them. So it sounds like, oh, he's planning a betrayal. He's betraying the villains. But hey, villains, come do this. And then he's like, now that I have you here, I can go ahead and get it. Sure, he's betraying us to help them, but it's just so he can betray them right back to us, right? Such a fun card there. 4 attack for 6. Then his ultimate. I'm the king, baby. With a strength card, 4 for 7. You get +1 for each different villain group in your victory pile. Then with another strength card, liberate 2 for each mastermind tactic in your villain pile. So at this point, I'm done taking on villains. I'm gonna go straight after the mastermind, which then liberate 2 can give them that additional one. So if at the point you want to start fighting masterminds with this, if you've already defeated five of the different villain groups, now he's up to 9 attack, and then liberate 2 gets him 10, 11. If you have 1 tactic in there, if you have 2, 11, 12, just gonna make the villain easier and easier to take out if he's the one doing it. Now, again, playing as a team, you could definitely just be like, oh, whoever gets this card, and they're gonna be able to use it, let him kind of focus on taking out the mastermind, if possible, because he can gain, and let him do some of the attacking, because then whoever's playing this can kind of use them advantages. Very, very cool. Alright, up next we have Party Thor. 3 copies of Forecast says Thunder, a range card. 3 recruit for 2. To play this, you must put another card from your hand on top of your deck. So you have to choose that first, and then you get to play the card. So it kind of sets up them what-ifs and them drawing abilities. But yeah, it's very interesting to get that. But it's very powerful right off the bat, because it's going to be the same as... It's better than buying... To some extent, it's better than buying the Shield Nick Fury card. It gets you cost 3 and gets you 2. Alright, we have Worthy Challenge. Strength card, he has 3 cost for 2 attack. Whenever you recruit a hero that costs 5 or more this turn, you get plus 3 attack. So I love this as a throwback to the Heroes of Asgard set, where there's the Worthy mechanic, which you have to have a card that's, I believe, 5 cost or higher, to be able to be considered worthy, and then you can use that ability. It just kind of works back into that same effect without reusing that ability, because it would have been weird to have one version of that in this set. Now, personally, I almost wish they would kind of do stuff like that, but I did it because then you have to now list 10 different abilities, because you have 1 instance here, 1 there. Whenever you recruit a hero that costs 5 or more this turn, you get 3 attack. After a life of empty pleasures, is there still time for this Thor to prove his worth? We have 3 copies of Destructive Feast, another strength card. 3 recruit for 5. Whenever you recruit a hero that would cost 5 or more this turn, reveal the top card of your deck and you may KO it. Now, both of them are this is kind of cool, but both of them have to do with whenever you recruit. So, as the game goes on, although you have a better chance of recruiting higher cost cards more, you don't want to recruit too many, otherwise your deck's going to start getting bloated. So, they're kind of interesting, but it's also a neat way because it could give you a reason to toss these guys later on. Hey, I've recruited a bunch, like 3, 4, 5 cost characters. They do some really good stuff. Toss some of these cheaper guys out. We have 2 copies of Asgardian Rager, a range card. First, cross-dimensional rampage card. So when you play a blue card, you may cross-dimensional rampage. It says if any player gains a wound this way, you get 3 attack. So this happens, every player has to reveal their card looking for a party card. It can be Party Thor, another version of him, or a villain with party in their name. Otherwise, he can get a plus 3, but it says if any player gains a wound, he gets plus 3. So if all other 3 players gain a wound, he only still gets plus 3, not 1 for each. So it's going to be a very tricky one. But this is easy enough to navigate around by just not playing a ranged card first. If you can't afford it. 2 copies of Only Sun. Strength card, 6 cost for 3 attack. What if you get you get attack equal to the cost of the hero revealed this way. So we just had our first card, which you put a card back on top of your deck to play it, then team it up with this. So you already know what you're getting. So you choose to put a higher cost card on there purposefully just for the sake of getting that extra attack. Growing up without Loki as a brother, this Thor never learned the pain of sacrifice. And then finally we have Worthy of the Lightning, another range card. 7 for 5 recruit. Whenever you recruit a hero that costs 5 or more this turn, you get attack equal to that hero's cost. So it's a very interesting character because most Thors are probably just, I'd say, most about doing attacks and even a lot of power. This one's all about recruiting people. He's like, I'm party Thor. I'm instead of me going out and attacking and battling, he's almost more like, I'm gonna get more people to come join me, come hang out with me, bring people together. So it's kind of a different take on Thor, which is kind of fun. So that's pretty cool. Alright, 2 more characters. We're gonna start with Gamora, Destroyer of Thanos. Covert card, Assassin Stealth. 2 for 0, you get a draw card. If you play a covert, you get 2 recruit. So yeah, early in the game, just drawing a card, which isn't bad. But as you get recruit cards, and it's also going to get you 2 extra, or as you get covert cards, it'll get you 2 extra recruit. Death steps softly. We have 3 copies of Tactical Insight, another covert. Draw 2 cards and put 1 card from your hand on top of your deck. 3 for 1, so this works out well with the other one as well. Identify the weak point, then strike without mercy. What's interesting here is because there's 2 ways to play this. Either play this last, draw your 2 cards, then one of those 2 cards has to go back on top of your deck. Or play this early, like maybe first, draw your 2 cards, now you have your entire hand, plus those 2 cards to decide which one goes back on top. So it might just depend on what you think you need to trigger. If you have, again, a what-if ability or another draw ability, you might want to use this earlier so you can dictate what card goes back on top so you can reveal it or know you're going to redraw it. But it could be useful just to play at the end and just, hey, let's see which card I get. And set up for the next turn. We have 3 copies of Wield the Blade of Thanos. So a big helicopter propeller. Instant, you get +1 attack for each card you drew this turn. So now you have a card drawing mechanic. It's going to get her more powerful. Otherwise, 1 for 4 is not too good. But yeah, we just have 2 cards that let you draw. We have 2 copies of Titaninside. I'm surprised they let them use that name, to be honest. Covert, what if, draw 2 cards. So just card drawing mechanics here. Killing Thanos is enough to earn a pretty badass reputation. 2 copies of Destroying Infinity Stone, which is how much more impressive than destroying Thanos. 3 attack for 6. Playing Instinct, then Soulbind. KO a card from your hand or discard pile. Interesting. So it lets you get rid of your either weaker cards or your starter cards. Or again, like we were just talking Thor. Hey, I recruited a bunch of 5-cost cards, maybe using that. I want to now get that out of here because it's not going to help me anymore. I'm not really recruiting. Here's a way you can definitely KO that to make your deck a little bit cheaper. They said it couldn't be done, but Gamora found a way. Then her ultimate, the Infinity Crusher tech card. This one's actually pretty crazy. 2 Infinity and Be Gone. 8 cost per 5. Pretty decent on its own. If you play another multiverse card, which in this set is every character, so if you're playing this, it's always going to trigger, unless you only have shield agents. But Soulbound 6 villains. You get Infinity attack usable only for a single fight. So yeah, she can take out anyone as long as you can Soulbound 6 villains, but most games, I'm probably going to say, unless you just let this person do all the attacking and that's it, maybe team her up with Killmonger, stuff is, you're probably only going to use this maybe twice. I found generally the ultimate abilities, even when I got them, because they're so high cost and there's 1 in your deck, I usually got to play them 2, maybe 3 times total. And then this one's also going to run that fact is by the second time I draw it, where it's actually going to be usable, like, I have to have 6 more villains, so I think most of the time you draw it's just going to be 8, or 5 attack, but still getting Infinity. One thing to keep in mind, though, is it's Infinity, I'm gonna assume this is technically it's Infinity plus 5. So you still have 5 you can use somewhere else, but that Infinity adds to it, so now you can only use that 5 to it. So you can't be, you can't say I'm going to play this and then now use that Infinity and then I'm going to do 5 with a different attack. I would say they combine it together. So it's basically one or the other. Alright, and then our last character is Uwatu the Watcher. It's just kind of cool they added him. Very interesting character because he's been all over the place in Marvel Comics forever, so it's neat that they have him. Another dimension crumbles, and he has covert, so he has 2 for 3 what if. You may KO a card from your hand or discard pile. Merely standing and watching as Ultron conquered so many dimensions as soon became unbearable. Yeah, lets you kind of get rid of your cards early on. We have 3 copies of Diverging Time Streams, another covert. Draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Covert, you get +1 recruit. A single choice can branch out into infinite realities, creating alternate worlds from the ones you know. Yeah, not 2 costs to draw a card, but you have to lose a card too. But very early on, that could be very worth it. 3 copies of Break the Oath. So this is his ranged card. 2 attack for 4. What if you get +2 attack? So he's really focused on his what if, which makes sense for him. The Watcher swore a sacred bond, never interfering, only to observe, a bond he has kept until now. 2 copies of Anointed Champion. Another covert. Play a covert. Choose a hero name. You are empowered by that hero name. So this is an interesting one because it's not any more stronger or weaker than saying empowered tech or empowered strength, because there could be 5 characters on your HQ of that one type or not. Because although there's 14 Captain Carter cards, throughout all 5 characters you have, there might not be 14 strength cards, because you might have not enough characters that have strength cards. So it could be very interesting. And then we have +2 for 5. If Watu could not intervene directly, perhaps he would sway a mortal to do what must be done. We have 2 copies of History Repeats, another range card. 3 attack for 6 cost. Range, Soulbound, you get +2 attack and you may do that villain's fight effect. That's actually pretty cool. In fact, like, we had the other card that lets you do the bystanders. This is neat to let you do the fight effect. Just as a neat concept. He watches mortals make the same decisions over and over, for good or for ill. Then his ultimate, Convoke the Guardians, range card. 5 attack for 7, so decent. What if choose a team, Multiverse, X-Men, Avengers, whatever. You are empowered by that team. So this is definitely one of those things that could be very powerful or kind of weak, like the empowered cards, any of them, depending on what you play. So in this set, Guardians of the Multiverse, you're always going to get 5. Because every card in HQ is always going to be multiverse characters. So that gives him a 10 attack, which is pretty darn powerful. But yeah, if you start mixing and matching of 5 different teams, you could potentially get 5 of the same team out, but you might also end up with like 2 of this one, 2 of that one, 1 of the other, right? So you might end up only getting 2 attack, but even like 2 with 7 for 7 is not bad either. What could get really crazy is playing some of the Steam twists that add multiple HQs. Because if you have a second row, that could get really, really crazy. Alright, so that is all of our heroes. I think what we're going to do is we're going to call that part 1 of this video. It's getting a little bit long. We'll come back for part 2 of the unboxing, and look at the villains. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.